Hello, and welcome to a special edition of the Superintendent's Report. I'm Charles Clapsaddle, Station Manager for Manatee Educational Television, and it's our great pleasure to have with us today Dr. Diana Greene, Superintendent of Manatee County Schools. Dr. Greene, thank you so much for taking the time out from what is, I know, a very busy schedule to take a few minutes to update it on the schools.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, one of the things that I'd like for you to take a few minutes about is to talk about your guide, and I call it the 5 C's, and it's just a wonderful document that you kind of put out there that constitutes a way to approach how to do business with the school system. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it came about because over the past few years, we've definitely gone through a number of challenges, and it's been a tumultuous, possibly like 5 past years. And I felt like it's time for the school district to reach a level of calmness, and with calmness, civility, confidence in what the school, we've got to regain confidence in the school district, consistency. Consistency sort of breeds calmness. People like to know what to expect, or they don't like being surprised all the time. And so for the past 5 years, it's been constantly change, up and down, surprises, information that you find out and you have no idea how that information came to be. And finally, community. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve our community, our community's children, and we have over 48,000 students we are serving. And I just felt we need a time to heal, reach a level of confidence in the school district, because we have a lot of work to do. Absolutely. But if you're constantly in turmoil, the work never gets accomplished.
Well, I must say, Dr. Greene, during your tenure here and instituting these 5 C's, there is a certain amount of stability and confidence within the system. Your leadership has lent itself to the morale and also to the community, so they have an individual that they know they can trust and rely upon. And it's been a tough 2 years or so, but at the same time, the community has really reached out and embraced you and the work that you've accomplished so far.
Absolutely. It's still a work in progress. We're not by any means feeling like we've arrived, and it's not a singular endeavor. Exactly. It requires a team. It requires over 6,000 employees to also embrace and buy into the 5 C's. It also our board, them buying in and embracing the 5 C's. So it really takes a village, as that old adage says, to raise a child. It takes a village to get this school district back on track. I just am honored and humbled that I'm allowed to be sort of the face of that movement. And it's always been a part of me that, you know, the more people know that you care about them, the more they're inclined to listen, they're more inclined to be helpful, they want to be a part of the movement. And so it's been my endeavor to show more how much I care about Manatee County.
And that's a perfect example, Dr. Greene. We've seen you at numerous community events, and we thought we went to a lot of community events. You go to many more than we do. And that's a kind of an outreach that's really consistent with your vision and approach to be inclusive of everyone, parents, family, faculty, staff. And it's a wonderful, effort that has been made. And your analogy of it takes a village, well, I would say it takes a small city because the school district is a large operation, and I don't think that people everyone understands the complexity, the intricacy of what a school district consists of. You have over 6,000 employees, 48,000 children that you're responsible for their education, a $671 million budget. You're responsible for transportation, facilities, food service, all of the many different things that go into the operation of a large corporation.
Absolutely. I'm not sure many people truly understand about what it takes to run a school district. And part of that is because our number one customer are the 48,000 students.
Exactly.
And when you're working with children, there is a high level of emotion involved in working with children because they're precious. They're our most precious resource. And as a mom, my children are very near and dear to my heart, and
Exactly.
so when I make decisions for them, a lot of times my heart is what's involved in this. And so we're in the business of dealing with educating students,
Right.
where their parents or their guardians, their heart is what's involved.
Very
and
much
at the
so.
same time, I'm trying to also run it as a business.
Exactly.
Because we have many resources and services that we offer that are businesses in the real world, if you will.
And that's very true. And I think, within a school district, with all the employees that you have and the responsibilities that you have to those employees, health care, risk management, all of those many things, that's a business. You have to do that in a very fiscally responsible way and look at what's best for the business, but at the same time, what drives you and all of the staff members and all of your principals is the best interest of the children.
Yes, and that's why it's so complex, because even though it's a business, many times the decisions that I have to make on the business side
Right.
eventually trickles its way down to the classroom. A perfect example would be healthcare.
Yeah.
Our healthcare costs are rising exponentially to the tune of $48 million.
That's incredible.
That we are going to have to do something to, one, ensure that our employees have good health benefits, but two, how do we reduce that cost for the school district? Because for every dollar that I'm having to put into healthcare, that's one less dollar that's going into the classroom. So a decision over here actually impacts that.
It's cause and effect.
It's a cause and effect, and that's what people don't get involved in, or they don't see that
Exactly.
aspect of the school district. As a parent, I know that I send my child to school. I interact with their classroom teacher. I make sure they're doing their homework.
Right.
So I'm seeing a very narrow view of public education. So if I like my child's teacher and my child's doing well, public education's doing great.
And your child is happy.
Your child's
That's
happy.
great.
Everything's great. But if it's the opposite, I'm not happy, then everything is not good.
Right.
And then we have this public education is bad.
And I think that's a point, because parents that are involved in their schools, and there's many parents, there's many great organizations within the different schools and active, involved parents, but yet the intricacy, the complexity of the business operation of a school district is vast. And I think that's something that the public needs to understand, is that there is a business model that's in place. And I must point out that during your tenure, that the school district is in great financial shape. It had some turmoil, as you mentioned, early on, and through the last few years, that has been turned around. Really unprecedented turnaround. And you have a fund balance now of, let me just say,
$14 million.
14 million, which just a few years ago was in a deficit, was in a deep deficit. So those are remarkable figures that the school district and your leadership has instituted. But I also should point out, since we were talking about health care, the health insurance fund now has a positive balance of over $8 million. And that's another incredible, unprecedented thing, because that was in deficit at one time as well. So the leadership that has been provided through you and your staff and deputy superintendents have made a remarkable turnaround in the finances of the school district.
Absolutely. But Charles, the person that I am, I always give honor where honor is due. This actually started with the former superintendent, so
Correct.
I'm not going to take full credit for
Right.
this.
And
And many of the people who work in this school district. Right. So I think it's a combination of, we had a rocky start when we arrived here 3 years ago, and through the efforts of people who had historical knowledge, that means current employees, a new team of senior leadership being committed to turning it around, working together, that's how we got to this place. And today we have a number of senior leadership individuals who continue to work through that process to continue to improve that fund balance. Because our desire is to get up to a 4.5% fund balance, so that in the future, if we make a decision to build a new high school, we may have to bond to build that new high school. Sure. And right now, we are improving. You may have heard Finch just raised our status.
Which is another remarkable turnaround, because before the status had been downgraded.
That is
but
correct.
Now it's back up to AAA rating. Is that correct?
Well, we're back to stable. So I want to get to the next.
Okay. And I'm sure you're going to get there.
Yeah, we're going to get to the next level, so that we are in a position to take our school district to the next level in dealing with the growth that is happening in our school district, dealing with some of our facilities that are underutilized, dealing with some of our facilities that are starting to age. Right. We have a number of challenges still facing us moving forward.
And there's significant challenges, and we want to talk a little bit about that, and how your vision and the strategic plan is, you're formulating that now as you move forward. But one of the things I wanted you to take a moment to talk about, because I know you're very proud of the achievements that the district has achieved. What are some of the highlights that you've seen that you'd like to share with Manatee County that you've seen over the past couple of years?
Well, I think one of the major highlight, and it's not going to be something that shows up into the Bradenton Herald or the Sarasota Herald. It's just the amazing hospitality of the people of our school district. Just to know that when I go to Publix, people walk up to me and say,
good job.
Good job. Or Dr. Greene, I've been following you, and we're supportive of the school district. Those things are precious. They're meaningful. They're priceless. You can't put a number on it. There's not going to be a news story about that. So I'm amazed at how we're starting that healing process, and how people are wanting to see the district be successful. They want to trust the school district again. And I see that in not going to the next community event, but just every day and being a member of Manatee County.
And I think that's very true. I think across the board there's this wave of confidence that back with the school district. Now, as you mentioned before, there's still challenges ahead. I'm sure you'd like to see improvement in some of the school grades. I'm sure you're working very diligently, as well as working with your staff to see what can be done. One of the great things I think that was instituted under your leadership is the GETs.
Graduation Enhancement Technicians.
And I think everybody uses the GET, but and I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Tell us about that, because I think that's a unique position that's been instituted in the schools.
Well, it actually started with the initiative on grade level reading initiative that the steering committee is made of the United Way, USF, the Manatee Literacy Council, and the school district. And then we've added like 30 partner agencies to continue this initiative. And really, it's a movement.
It is.
It's about a community embracing literacy, and that we want every single third grader to be reading on grade level.
So vital.
So vital. And part of that initiative, it has identified 5 roadblocks of why a child may not be proficient by third grade. And one of those roadblocks is chronic absenteeism.
Yes.
And working with Elena Garcia, who is the Director of Federal Programs, we were fortunate to receive $3 million in federal grant money. And we wanted to do something unique, not just spend it on materials, supplies, although those things are very important.
Right.
We wanted the ability to make a lasting impact.
A sustainable
impact.
Right.
And so, just researching, I found another school district in Aiken, South Carolina, that had a position called student service worker, and I started reading, and this position was about helping students get to school. They would find out the root cause of why they weren't coming to school, and then they would work with their school district social workers or other community agencies to relieve whatever that root cause was the reason why that student wasn't coming to school. They would be sort of the liaison to do the footwork to try to solve that problem.
Well, I think it's just a wonderful opportunity, and the grade level reading emphasis, the Patterson Foundation is involved in this as well, and we've had the opportunity to tape a couple of programs. It's a wonderful opportunity, but without that individual that's there who is caring, knowledgeable, and whose emphasis is to help that child get through their issue so they can get to school, is so important.
Very important. And the GETS, actually, Graduation Enhancement Tech, actually the name came from Elena Garcia. When we looked at I love the name because I wasn't too thrilled with students worker. We thought, well, no one would understand what does that mean, and she said Graduation Enhancement Tech. Absolutely. That's their whole purpose. They're going to enhance the experience of these children in their education to lead to graduation. And so their role is to work, they have a caseload of students who have shown a trend of chronic absenteeism. And here's the aha moment for us. Most people would think, well, you're in elementary schools. Really, aren't it your high school kids who aren't the ones coming to school? No. Our highest group of students with chronic absenteeism are our youngest students, our pre-K kindergarten.
And that's such a tough road, because I think in the indications that I've seen is that the more you're absent, the further you get behind. And the further you get behind, there's no real hope of catching up. So one needs to have that emphasis, that attendance is so important, and reading is so important before you get to that third grade level.
Absolutely.
It's good skills.
Yes, and our GETs are located in our Title I schools. And for those schools, many of those students already start behind entering into whether it's pre-K or kindergarten. And so if you're already behind entering and then you start to miss days of school, the gap continues and it gets wider. Right. And it becomes almost, as you said, impossible to close it or to ensure that that student is going to graduate. And people may ask, why third grade? Why is it so important at third grade? One, research indicates any student retained in third grade, they have a 60% chance of not graduating high school. So the fact that you can predict from third grade is quite astonishing to me in the first place.
Yes. And when I first heard of these things that they can predict that's going to happen, I was saying, but it's only a third grader. They have the rest of their school. But it's the emphasis and the research has shown that by third grade, because at third grade you're learning to read, and then after that point you're reading to learn. And if you're not at grade level, then that gap becomes more distinct.
Right. And it becomes more difficult to read to learn because you're still struggling with the reading process. And it's very similar. I like to use an analogy. If you break your arm and you don't stabilize it, and allow enough time for that bone to fuse back together, you will have constant problems with your arm. Well, if we don't ever fuse in that reading process by 3rd grade, it's like having still a little crack in your arm. It's never going to heal, and it becomes very difficult to get them back on track.
That's a great analogy.
So,
I think that's a wonderful analogy. And perhaps, perhaps in the future we could do a program about your emphasis on grade level reading, and we could bring in, Elena, and I think Dr. Sheila Halpin is involved in it as well, and talk about the, the importance of this as we continue on. But I want to move on, if I may, Dr. Greene, because I had a couple of other questions for you. And one of this is, I think, something that, you're very involved with. The EDC, the Economic Development Council, recently emphasized that the importance of growth and jobs in Manatee County is tied directly to a successful and a stable school district. Because when an employer comes, they want to know about a school district, whether it's succeeding, can they bring their employees here, are their employees' children going to be taken care of? So it's a kind of a direct tie-in. The school district is very proactive in this. You have so many programs that are geared to, career choices as people walk out. What would you say to the EDC that you're doing to make the school district compatible with their emphasis?
Well, we're doing a number of efforts to make our schools compatible. One of the ideas from the EDC was having school gardens at every single elementary school. And in reality, many of our elementary schools already have school gardens. Now we just need to move to the next level to work with each school to ensure that they have the resources, the land, the location of having a school garden on their campus. But one of our bright and shining stars is Manatee Technical College.
Very much so.
We are partnering even more to start people thinking about, I can have a great career and not go to a 4-year university. I can attend a technical college, get that first hands-on experience, apprenticeships. One of the businesses that came was at the port, and they needed welders.
That's right.
Manatee Technical College has started that program, and they're graduating welders each and every day, prepared to go into a very successful career. And so those are the pieces that we have an opportunity, and educators don't like to toot their own horn. Doug Wagner is
a wonderful, strong. And he's one of those individuals who lives and breathes the Mantle Technical College.
Yes, he does.
And he's so proud of the accomplishments that they have done. And you're right, he's a very quiet and humble person. But under his leadership, the Technical College continues to flourish and offering new programs all the time.
Yes. And he's always willing to look for new programs. And so we're excited about one of the new programs that may not be out there at this point is now that the construction is starting to build up in our area, they're looking for masonry, masons, and Manatee Technical College will be putting a apprenticeship program in place.
That's a wonderful
And so
idea.
what we're doing as a school district, because most people think, well, that's for the adults. No, many of our students dual enroll at Manatee Technical College.
Wonderful opportunity.
Wonderful opportunity. What we are doing is also looking at those students that struggle. We are working to get them all on grade level so that that struggle will be less. But for those students who are already in the pipeline and they're struggling, we are partnering with Manatee Technical College with some of those apprentice being high school students.
Right.
High school students that we have said, that they have said, well, I just want a GED. Well, okay, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Let's connect you to a vocation that even if you choose to continue and you want the GED, you
Right.
now have a vocation that you can start making money to start thinking, well, now I have a career, and that possibly could lead to, you know what? I can do other things.
Exactly.
And maybe I'm now going to enroll at Manatee Technical College to
I
do
can get
something.
other certifications.
Yes.
And I think the one key thing, and again, hats off to Doug and his staff for doing this, but I think the one thing that the Technical College offers is opportunities. It's saying we can give you an opportunity. This is workforce development. And also working with the business community, they're listening to what the business community is looking for. Do we need masons? Do we need welders? Do we need electricians? Do we need this? And then they'll help develop classes that'll bring young people in so they can work in those careers. It's a win-win situation, both for the young people that want to start a career and also for the businesses that are out there that are looking for workforce.
Absolutely. And we've taken it a step further. We now are partnering with USF, State College of Florida, Manatee Technical College, and the school district to kind of put that theme out. You have a hometown education. You can start and your path can lead to a technical college, a state university, or a state college.
Exactly.
You can get it all here in Manatee County, and the affordability is
very
there.
important.
It's very important, and we can help with that process.
And I think that's a key thing too, is that, another thing, if you have a moment, you can talk about the academies that you have in some of the schools as well. And those are that pipeline of students that, may be college bound, they may not be, but there's a pipeline of young, eager people waiting for opportunities that you're providing them with a wide variety of choices.
Absolutely. One of our academies, the Engineering Academy at Braden River High School, always has a waiting list. and these students see this as an opportunity to gain certification, but I may not decide to be an engineer, but the skills and the leadership that I gain from not only the academy, but participating in TSA, I can take with me for a lifetime, anywhere.
Yeah,
and it looks great on a resume. It looks great when you're applying to different colleges. We had 3 young men present to the school board a couple months ago who created a prosthetic leg. I don't know if they've been on your show or not, but
fabulous, opportunity.
Yes.
And as you well know, the Science and Engineering Fair is coming up. I believe the judging is on Monday, which we'll be covering, and then the award ceremony is sometime in February. These projects, these schools and the academies that give these young people an opportunity, they're fabulous ideas. They should be on Shark Tank. Some of these things. I mean, they really are wonderful things. And these are products of of our schools with the emphasis from a dedicated faculty and staff that want young people to succeed and provide them a path to college or to university or into a career field.
Absolutely. This is the level of what we do that goes beyond school grades, test scores. It goes into the authentic learning of students. And, they amaze me. Just yesterday, I was at at the fair. And, our FFA students,
wonderful.
The amount of math that they utilize in raising their livestock, whether it's
their
a
calf
pig
or their goat or their pig, and they have to calculate the feed and the weight and all of those type of things. And it's a very intricate process that uses it. And these are students that dedicate themselves, are very knowledgeable.
Absolutely. Well, and the commitment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's no different than as a parent taking care of a child. They were taking care of these animals as if they were their children, and the pride on their faces was amazing. And so no school grade could ever give me such satisfaction than those types of learning opportunities for our students. My only regret, I would say, is that not all 48,000 get that opportunity to participate. I want to do a better job of advertising to our students. Be a part of FFA. It does not mean you're going to be a farmer or that you're going to even have a career in agriculture. But again, it's those soft skills, leadership, commitment, teamwork. Those are things that you will carry with you no matter
wherever you go,
for
the rest of your life.
Yes, and whatever you decide to do for a living.
And you know the other thing, Dr. Greene, if I may say so, while the FFA is a wonderful organization, I always get a kick out of when I see like some, fifth grader who's this thing, and he's pulling 1,000-pound steer behind him. And these kids are dedicated. They're up at 4 in the morning, feeding them, watering them, taking care of the thing. It's a wonderful opportunity. But the other opportunities throughout the district are manifold. I mean, there's so many different things. There's art and music, emphasis on engineering. There's a whole emphasis on science and technical abilities. It's really a wide and deep offering that the district offers its students.
So many that we couldn't possibly cover the offerings that we have on the show. Today I was excited because we're looking at our performing arts for our middle school students. I visited the Florida Theater, and we're talking with them about bringing a program to 3 of our middle schools to immerse those students into writing their own plays, having professional actors come do a performance of their play.
How thrilling would that be for students? Even if you're not interested in the theater, to see a live performance with professional actors, what a wonderful opportunity.
From something you wrote.
Oh, how incredible would that be?
And they tell me that it's generally your students who struggle with writing who write the best plays.
Really?
Because I think the way they come in and share with students about allow your mind to be free thinking. It's okay. Sentence structure is not your number one priority. Once we get what's up here down on paper, we can then go back and correct or edit and proofread.
Right.
And they shared a story with me today about a student writing a story about their life and how profound it was about the loss of a pet. And this student being able to articulate how much they loved their pet, and then to have professional actors come and perform what that student wrote was just amazing.
How meaningful, and what a great learning experience for that student to benefit from. And there's so many things that other students can take away from that. The knowledge that something that they write can be performed. I know you can talk about students forever. I mean, and the enthusiasm, the excitement is so evident. But I do want to touch on a couple of things while we have a few remaining minutes. And one of these, Dr. Greene, is an issue that the school district has been looking at for a period of time now, and that's growth. Manatee County is experiencing growth, and it's going to continue to experience growth. I think this year there are over 1,700 additional students that are in the district. At some point, there's going to come a time where capacity, schools are going to have to be looked at to say, what do we do here? Where do we go? Do we need a new school? Do we need to consolidate? And you have a consulting firm that you're working very closely with that's helping you kind of develop a strategy. Growth is inevitable. This is a wonderful community. It's got full of great opportunities here. What do you see the school district moving as you continue to think about growth and development?
Well, we are growing, and yes, over the last 13 months, we've received about 1,700 new students.
That's a school.
Yes, that's an entire school. Part of what we're dealing with is growth is happening in certain segments of our community, mostly out east. And we are experiencing underutilization in other portions of our school district. And working with Dijon Richter, we will have to find a balance. How do we get these facilities who are underutilized to a point where they are fully utilized, and at the same time give relief to the facilities that are over capacity? Lakewood Ranch High School, Braden River High School, Palmetto High School, all three of these schools are over 100% capacity, with Lakewood Ranch upwards to 135% over capacity.
And that taxes resources. You know, there's additional teachers that have to be hired, you know, there's classroom space. All of these things, all of these critical things that contribute to a successful education, you know, are impacted by population. And one of the key things that, you know, that you're looking, and I must point out that, you know, Dr. Greene attended a meeting at Wakeland just last night to talk to parents and to listen to their concerns about what may or may not happen with Wakeland. And that's far off because it's still in a study policy right now. But the key thing here is that growth is going to continue, and one needs to, and with Dijon Richter, is developing that strategy to look and see how best the district can meet that challenge.
And it starts with communication. You stated that I went and met with the parents of Wakeland, and when we had a good 2-hour conversation about why your facility, understanding the structural issues of the facility, and why we chose looking at possibly pairing it with another school that has the same program that the elementary, a middle school with an elementary, possibly K-8, they both have the same program, then people started to understand. And they started to understand that you're actually only a small piece of a much bigger puzzle.
And that's a key thing, as maybe we talked about it at the beginning. There's a complexity, there's priorities that shift all the time. And I think your outreach and inclusion of a community helps people to understand that complexity. And I'm sure the parents at Wakeland may or may not agree with all the things, but at least they feel included in that discussion.
Absolutely. That was probably the theme that I heard by the end of the night. Thank you for including us. Thank you for giving us information. Because I did tell them, we have a very special program at Johnson that that even if 100% of you agreed that that should happen, I have a program there that I feel very committed to, that I've got to find a permanent home for that program first.
Exactly.
So it isn't as simple as people say, I'm only concerned about my school or my child's classroom. At my level, I have to look at the whole picture, and it's very simple. You throw a rock, and there's a ripple effect.
And if that wasn't enough, the ripple is constantly changing. It's constantly moving. So, you know, with your staff and you know, professional people that are helping you, you have to take all of the shifting possibilities and see, one, what is in the best interest of the students that you're serving? 2, what is fiscally responsible? And 3, how do you plan ahead so, you know, maybe 3 or 5 years from now, we're not in the same situation again? And those are those strategic values that are constantly on the move.
Absolutely. Part of our business is that we don't go out and make money. We are paid based on the number of students and our local taxes. And so from year to year, it's very challenging to say, well, I know for a fact 5 years from now, this is the amount of revenue we will have. You can't. I can't predict that. But what I can do is look at, okay, over the last 10 years, this has been our growth pattern. And I'm projecting that it's going to be the same. We have some really wonderful people who data mine that information and kind of gives us a picture of, okay, this is where we should be in 5 years. Should be.
Barring any
unforeseen circumstances. And working with Dijon Richter, they've identified that we would need a new high school, a new elementary, and a new middle school. What they cannot project is today we have a half-cent sales tax that helps us with that, with
that growth and
and renovating
right.
older facilities. Well, it sunsets in December 2017.
And that's one of the key things I wanted to mention is that that's a key thing. That was a capital, for all the capital things you built the school district built several schools throughout the run of the sales tax. It's very important, but it's one part of the triangle, so to speak. The school district just instituted the reissue of impact fees.
Yes.
And that'll begin in April, and that's on a sliding scale. It starts off at 50%, and that adds something to the revenues. Well, impact fees can only be used for
growth.
Capital gains, capital
Yes.
buildings, correct?
Yes, and growth.
And growth.
And it can only be renovations,
Right.
or you can use it for school buses, but that's because you're dealing with growth.
Growth. And the other part, so just so the public can understand, the areas, impact fees and property taxes, which this year the millage kind of remained the same again.
1.5.
Which is consistent with it, and then the funding from the state. So those are the three major revenue streams that you get. And I saw an interesting statistic, and I'll just share that with you if I may, if I can find it real quick, which was the fact on expenditures, the average cost to educate a student is $8,200,
Yes.
which is an average, is all costs rolled in. With local property taxes and the state funding per student, it comes to about $7,500. So right off the bat, you're in a deficit.
Yes.
Right off the bat. But there's other funds that roll in from other things, so it works out. But one of the key things, and you were just recently at a joint school board meeting with Sarasota and Charlotte County, and one of the key things is that to lobby legislation or the legislators for increased spending. Now, the legislature is just in session now, and there's talk about new record spending for students, but there still is going to be a gap.
Absolutely.
And
there's
there's no way to stop that.
And one of the key areas is in 2007, we used to be able to levy up to 2.2 mils for capital. In 2007, when the Great Recession occurred, the state, in support of operations, reduced the millage to 1.5.
As a reaction to the recession.
So if we were still at 2 mils from 2007 to today,
would be remarkable.
The district would have gained close to $113 million to be used for capital. Right. You could pay for a high school and maybe start an elementary school with $113 million. However, we did not gain those dollars because the state went back to a 1.5. Part of our legislative platform is to give us the ability to go back to 2 mils. That would support the school district in renovating schools. For example, if we're combining Wakeland Elementary with Johnson, renovating Johnson Middle School so that it is conducive to a K-8 model. But since we are not at that point, the one thing that is in our community's control is our half-cent sales tax.
And I think, too, the half-cent sales tax can only be used for construction and renovation and for the items that you mentioned before.
And technology.
And technology. So there's a wide variety.
Yes.
And I think to have that, the half-cent sales tax there, is something that has to be put on the referendum. That's something that has to go before the public and stated, this is why we need it, this is what needs to be done, and it's part of that triangle of funding, those revenue sources that every district needs, not just Manatee County, but every district needs. Manatee County, and if I may say so, I happened to hear at your meeting that you attended, because I watched a portion of it, that not every school district is increasing at the size that Manatee County is. There's other school districts that are losing students. Manatee County is continued to grow, so there is going to be an immediate, long-term need for additional schools to support the influx of population into Manatee County. People are coming to work here, they're coming to live here, they're building, businesses here. So there's going to be a continued growth. And what needs to happen for growth is there's going to have to be additional infrastructure, roads, traffic, and schools. And schools is one of the key components of relocating to Manatee County.
Yes, schools. This picture is so much larger even than the school system, because we connect with county government. Wherever we decide we're going to put a school, there has to be quality roads leading to that school, other infrastructure supporting drainage. Right. So we partner with our county government, city government to ensure that although we can function as a small city unto ourselves, but we make sure that we have partners to ensure that whatever the goals of the county and the city for their growth, we are a part of that and can be supportive of that.
For example, if there's a development that's being done in Parrish or out east, someplace like that, you've got to have the roads, you've got to have the drainage, you have to have the water, you have to have all of those things in place, of which impact fees may help the school district considerably. Absolutely. But all of that's got to be in place, and then the schools come. Because people want to have good schools in their community. That's one of the key things that if you ask anywhere in the country, one of the top priorities anybody wants, I want to have a good school in my community. I don't want to have to travel 10 miles or 12 miles or whatever the case might be. I want a school in my community that my child is going to be happy in, that's convenient for them, and provides them with a first-class education.
Charles, you're absolutely correct. That is what every parent wants. And so we have this balancing act to put new schools in our areas where they are growing and families are coming to our county. But we also have a responsibility of the schools that are already have communities supporting them to ensure that their schools are aesthetically pleasing and that great things are happening inside the building.
Right.
So
there's aging schools.
Yeah,
schools.
That referendum is important to us because we need to take care of those aging schools. We are behind on our sort of annual maintenance repair so that schools can stay in good health.
Right.
And so that referendum is not only supporting what we need new, but taking care of our current schools and ensuring that those communities still like, you know what, I'm important too, and my school is being taken care of, and my school is good. It also, our school grades reflect what parents, whether people like it or not, part of that decision of what I think is a good school is, what's its school grade? And if I say it's a school grade of A, immediately people get a sense of pride. I must be going to a good school. But if that school grade is a D or an F, all of a sudden they think it's not a good school, when in reality there may be wonderful things happening in that school.
And that's another thing too, when school grades. I wish we had a little time to talk about that, because that's a very arbitrary process, and some of these schools go from a C to a D by a point, these cut things, and it's tremendously unfair to the school, because the staff and faculties that you have in all of your schools, they're there every day doing the best that they can. There's wonderful teachers, and that's another whole program we can talk about the quality of teaching in your schools. But we're kind of winding down a little bit, and I have a couple more items I just want to touch base. Anytime you want to come back, Dr. Greene, we can continue this conversation. I'd be more than happy to do this. But I did want to touch base on one thing with you, and that's a community. And we talked about it briefly at the beginning. And you are out there in the community. You and your staff are out there, and you have a wonderful staff. You know, Deputy Superintendent Don Hall. We see him out and about. Your other Deputy Superintendent Cynthia Saunders. Your Deputy Superintendent of Instruction.
Yeah.
She's out and about, you know, meeting with families and parents and going to schools. It's really important for you, for community involvement. Tell us why you think that's critical to the mission of the school district.
Well, the more you're involved, the more you know what's going on in our school district. Today, I had the great pleasure of being with the Lakewood Ranch Rotary Club, and they were honoring Books for Kids, the volunteers. And these are retirees. And, you know, when people think of Florida, let's go there to retire. In the sunshine, you can play golf, you can do many things. But these individuals have chosen to work with some of our most challenging students in the area of literacy. Today, when I heard them speak about the children, how much they love the children, and how much they would support, and I'll use Ballard Elementary, which was one of the schools, support Ballard. The first thing what can we do? What can we do to be more? They know that great things are happening in our schools, exactly. and that it's so much more than a school grade.
Yes.
And so when we have our community see what's happening in our classrooms, and we open our doors, we open our arms up and say, we want you to be a part of what we're doing. We don't guarantee that we'll agree on everything, but we can be civil together. And we can work together, and we can have confidence in whatever that end result is. It's been done with input. So it goes back to the 5 C's. If you see, I used 3 of them in the same sentence. In the same sentence, because that's what community is about. Community is lending that helping hand when someone needs help. Community is about celebrating together when things are really good. That community is about also feeling the pain and when things aren't going well.
Celebrating the triumph too.
So, but always being willing to give a helping hand, no matter whether the situation is positive or negative. We support our school system. And when we don't involve the community, then they feel isolated, they feel disengaged, and so then the feelings aren't necessarily positive about the school system. You know, it was very clear when I met with the parents at Wakeland, when you don't have information, someone will give you information and it may not be correct. So when we directly engage with them, that's how you build trust. You see my actions, and as I shared with them, I'm going to ask you to trust me, but verify what I'm doing. Watch and see, and if I say we're going to bring an architect to show you what the designs, and then hold me to that. That's how we will continue to move forward as a school district and a community, by continuing to have the dialogue, by continuing to engage in the process. And again, we may not agree on everything, but we've done it in a civil way. And again, it's back to the bottom line. Is this decision going to impact what happens to a child in the classroom? And is that impact going to be positive or negative? And if it's negative, how do we mitigate that as much as possible?
Exactly.
And because I shared with the parents that if that move happens, we're going to involve you in the process, because we can solve problems so much quicker if we do it together instead of us doing it to you, instead of let's walk together on this path.
And you know,
and Charles, I hate to interrupt you, but I cannot leave out the school board. They are also a very integral part of this process.
Very much so.
And I'm very pleased that we are collaborating.
Very much
again.
So.
that breeds confidence to the community
It
that,
does.
well, the school district is headed in the right direction. And so those 5 members
Right.
are working together. Doesn't mean we agree on everything. They come with a diverse set of ideas, and utilizing all these different ideas, hopefully we can come out with the very best plan for
And I
our
think you're right
students.
to do the school board as their sole employee. You
Yes, I am their sole employee.
But under your leadership, the school board has become very engaged in working with you as the superintendent to find solutions to some very difficult issues. And those issues, are going to be on the table for a while, and there's going to be talk and there's going to be discussion. But I think under your leadership, they'll find solutions for everything. And as you mentioned, Dr. Greene, you are dedicated to making this the best school district that it could possibly be. And I must share something with our audience, if I may. And recently, Dr. Greene was at an event, and it was full of kids, and it was a wonderful, outdoor event, and kids were playing, and there were parents there. And Dr. Greene, was kind of swamped by a few kids, and she had her arm around these kids, and she was going, these are my kids. And then she looks out to all these other kids and goes, they're all my kids. And I thought that was a great indicator of the level of effort, the commitment, and the confidence that you, Dr. Greene, have brought to this school district. And Manatee County is very fortunate to have somebody of your caliber leading our district. So thank you again for the work that you do.
Thank you, Charles.
And I would extend this invitation, perhaps to do another program to talk on some of the other many faceted aspects of the Manatee County School District.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to another opportunity, because one of the areas that I think we can improve upon is selling our story.
It's a great
putting
story
our
to
story
tell.
out there.
It's a wonderful story to tell, and there's great teachers, there's great students, you have great staff, and welcome the opportunity to do that, because it's a story worth telling. The school district is a reflection of our community, and our community should be involved and engaged in all the great things that are happening and how they can help the schools as well. Dr. Greene, I know you got a million other things to do, but it's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
And thank you for joining us on this special edition of the Superintendent's Report. We'll see you next time.